Hello and welcome. Today's project is all about 3 reasons why you remain stuck in anxiety, why you are stuck in a rut and can't seem to get yourself out. The first reason is that you're identified to your ego. You're too identified to who you are or who you think you are. And what I mean by that is you have this set mindset that anything outside of the domain of what you already know is not acceptable to you, right? That this is who you are and this is who you're going to be. But that's not true. We're constantly stepping out into the domain of the unknown, into the domain of the unknown. And in that unknown territory is where we acquire new information that we incorporate, and thus we grow and expand our knowledge and expand our capabilities. Because what happens when we go into unknown territory, when we drive a car for the first time? Well, we experience the anxiety, we experience the stress. You don't know how to drive, it's stressful. You're going on these busy roads and you're a beginner level, you're a fool at it, so your anxiety is going to be high. That's the domain of the unknown territory. But you're gathering new information, because when you're stressed out like that and you're driving, after a month that stress level is going to recede substantially, because now those habits of driving become unconscious because you've been practicing them for such a long time, a month, 2 months, 3 months. You've been practicing them, and then you're better at driving, right? So that's the same with overcoming anxiety, overcoming extreme health anxiety. First of all, you have to learn that there's a lot of things about what's going on inside the brain, inside your body, that you don't know. So when I first began the recovery journey, I had to start to learn about anxiety, what I was doing every day, watching videos on YouTube, listening to self-help podcasts, figuring out, okay, what am I doing that's making me suffer this way? So I had to push myself out into the domain of unknown territory, and in that domain, that's where you acquire new information that you need to incorporate within yourself, and then kill off the dead parts of you that have not been working for you, right? So people who remain stuck, you see that they don't change, right? They're the same person. And that's because when they step out into the new domain, they experience that resistance, that anxiety, like when you first drive a new car. But it's like when you drive a car for the first time, what do? You keep pushing through that pain and suffering of learning. But with anxiety, like if you learn to drive a car for the first time and you experience that pain, and you go back and you're like, no, I don't want to experience that pain, I don't want to learn to drive, then you're not going to learn to drive. You will never learn how to drive. And it's the same with anxiety. If you go back to your old ways, you're not going to get to the place other people get to, the place that I got to, the place that spiritual teachers get to, the place where your role models get to. How did they get there? They had to push through that failure, right? And so when you're identified with your ego, you're really identified to this false sense of self. You're dependent on these habits. You're dependent on materialism, consumerism that makes up who you are, right? And the more attached you are to your ego, the more you're going to avoid that pain and suffering that will lead you down the road to success, right? And so when you're identified with materialism, consumerism, dependent habits, it's going to be hard to break, but that's where you have to suffer through that initial acceptance that what I'm doing now is not serving me. It's not serving the person that I want to be. I have to confront that and realize that, which is painful. Then I have to incorporate new habits that make up the identity that I want to manifest. And when you start to act out those new habits, you're killing off the old habits that you used to incorporate, that you used to embody. And so now you're embodying these new habits. And it takes practice, 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 and then you start to become that person, right? It's pretty much faking it until you make it. That's really what it comes down to. And so the ego, what the ego really is, it's your identification to form, identification to this embodiment, right? What is making up the you sitting here right now watching this video? What is making up that you? Your attachment to your clothing. And I like it in Fight Club, Tyler Durden's Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden, he says, you're not the car you drive, you're not the clothes you wear, you're not the furniture you own, you're not the pet you own. You know, he's saying that you're too identified to these things that make up this false sense of self. And a lot of spiritual teachers talk about that there is this you that lives beyond that materialism. There's a you that lives beyond that suffering. There's this transcendent you. And that's really powerful, and it's completely true. The second reason why you remain stuck in health anxiety or anxiety is that you're unwilling to change the habits that you do. And you tell your unconscious what you want through the actions you do every day. So that requires you to pay attention to what you do every day. What are you doing every day that is contributing to who you are, your identity? Well, it could be the reassurance seeking, it could be the constant doctor visits, it could be the dependency of alcohol, drugs, it could be the dependency on impulsive pleasures, sex, pornography. It could be your dependency on videos, or just sitting in front of the TV watching Netflix and eating junk foods. What is your dependencies? What are you dependent on that's making up your ego, that's making up your identity? That's a hard question. That's something that is painful to confront, because the ego doesn't want to confront that, right? Your unconscious doesn't want to confront that truth, because it's happy the way it is. But who's saying the way it is making you happy? Because clearly you're in pain. Clearly I was in pain, and I had to say, well, I was causing my own pain. So I was like, I had to confront my ego, and the ego said, no. I want to blame God. I want to blame my parents. I want to blame the world. It's like, I'm going to start with myself, because I can't change the world, right? So I hope it's me that's causing my own pain. And it turned out it was me, because of the habits I was doing every day. And so people who don't overcome anxiety, they remain in their routines, in their habits. And Einstein says perfectly, insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing. And you hear it all the time from people you know, or you may be the one doing this, where you're saying, why am I always attracting the same negative people? Why am I always dating the wrong men or the wrong women? Well, it's what you're manifesting. So engaging in new productive habits can manifest what you actually want instead, which is really powerful. And first, when you engage in a new habit, it's met with resistance first, but then reward, right? So you have to push through that resistance to gain the reward. And what's the reward? Well, you're developing self-respect. And how do you develop self-respect? Through discipline. And it's when you engage in something difficult and you overcome that difficulty, you get the dopamine kick that, hey, I'm more than I could be. I'm more than I am, because I challenge myself to meditation. I challenge myself to exercise or going on a strict diet and waking up early and doing a journal or reducing my TV time or not going out with those friends and drinking and staying home instead and reading. And because those tasks are difficult, you're first met with that resistance and pain, but then the future you is rewarded. You're not waking up with a hangover. You're not so disorganized because you've written in a journal and you planned out your day. You're not so anxious because you exercised and meditated and ate those healthy foods. That's powerful. You're rewarding this you that could be in the future by engaging in activities that are difficult right now. And when you engage in those difficult activities, you get this reward saying, wow, I'm tougher than I thought I was. And that's powerful. The third reason why you remain stuck in anxiety is your dialogue, is what you say. Because what you say can potentially make you weak, right? So it can be the tone of your voice. If you're talking like this, like a victim, that victim tone, the victim voice, yeah, it's another day. I'm never going to overcome this. I will always be this way. You generalize. So when you generalize and you talk in that tone, you're just communicating to your unconscious mind that you are this victim, that you are a prey animal. Yeah, prey animal. I was thinking of predator, but you're a prey animal, right? You're the one that's hunched over, talking in this tone that you're telling yourself. It's like this loop that, everything, I am the prey to whatever's out there, and that's that. But it's also when you engage in the opposite of that, even though you don't feel like it, even though you want to speak like this and talk the victim mentality, and then you start to play affirmations and speak the affirmations out loud with confidence. I am powerful. I can overcome challenges. I am more than I think I am. And you speak those affirmations out loud, maybe on your way to work when you're driving in your car, maybe in the morning when you're having that time by yourself. And you may not feel like you're those affirmations, but it's fake it until you make it. And then you start to manifest what you say. So if you're saying, I want this, I want to manifest that, you're going to start to attract those things that you want into your life. And also, if you say things in the past tense, like I used to suffer from anxiety, I used to do these unproductive habits, I used to smoke cigarettes, I used to drink, and I used to wake up at 10 a.m., I used to do these things, then you detach yourself from that attachment to those habits that made up your ego, that made up your identity. You're detaching from those aspects of yourself, which is so powerful. So if what you're saying is making you feel weak, stop saying it. It's better to not say anything at all than to say those things, than to say, what if it is this disease? What if I'm never going to overcome this? My life, everyone's against me. God is against me. Then you're going to keep on living that victim role. Like I said, in the second reason why You have to develop that self-respect through that pain, that suffering. And that's why discipline is so powerful for overcoming anxiety. So are you speaking words that make you feel weak? And if so, change them. Even though you don't feel like you are that person, do it anyways, because you're going to start to believe it eventually the more you say it. Because that victim self-talk, that victim talk is practiced. That's why, something that's practiced for a long period of time becomes who you are. So when you start to practice new ways of speaking, new ways of communicating, a new tone of voice, then that becomes who you are. Remember that what's out in the unknown territory, and what you practice and practice and practice becomes incorporated within you. And that's what happens when you practice things over and over and over again. And that's where I'm going to leave you on today's video. Thank you so much. Please leave a comment. Is there another point that I've missed? And also leave a like, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And lastly, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next video or podcast. Bye for now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell so that whenever a new video of mine appears, you will be one of the first to know. Namaste.